Let's start at the kitchen table. Years ago, my wife and I sat down at ours with a stack of statements in front of us. Credit card balances, car payments, thousands and thousands of dollars of it. And the thing I remember most is not the number. It's that I didn't really know the exact number. I'd spent a long time on purpose not knowing it. So we did something about it. We signed up for Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey's course. We sat in a room with other people once a week and we worked the whole thing. The budget, the baby steps, the debt snowball, and we got out of all of it. Credit cards, car payments, every dollar. That course changed the actual trajectory of our money, and I will never talk about the man who built it with anything less than respect. So sit with this for a second. The guy who taught me how to dig out of debt thinks that what I do now, this game, this show, everything I teach on these episodes, he thinks it's a trap. He said the number of millionaires who got there on credit card points is exactly 0. And a few weeks ago, I stopped reacting to that and actually went and read what he said. Not the internet's Cliff Notes version, his version. He makes 4 arguments against people like me. So I put all 4 on the table, one at a time, and asked myself honestly whether he's right. And here's where I landed. 2 of them, he's dead right. And I'm going to say so louder than he'd expect. But 2 of them I think are actually costing good, disciplined families the one thing they could never get back. So let's have it out. Respectfully, of course. Welcome to The Point Circuit. I'm Lane, and this is the show that takes you from clueless to confident in the world of credit card points and miles. If you are new here, welcome. This show is built for beginners, not for people who already know what all the transfer partners are and how to use them, but for people who have a credit card, pay it off every month like a responsible adult, and have never once opened the reward section of their app. Today, I'm taking the 4 biggest arguments against everything that I teach. I'm putting them on the table one at a time, and I'm telling you exactly where I stand. 2, I'll agree with completely. 2, I'm going to push back on hard, and I'm going to bring actual information and data around this. Quick word on tone, because this is the internet and everything's a fight these days. This is not me going after Dave Ramsey. I owe the man. If you are drowning in credit card debt right now, close this episode, go listen to him instead, and then come back in a year. I mean that. But owing somebody respect doesn't mean you never disagree with them. It means you disagree with them honestly. That's what today is. So one housekeeping note. I'm recording this towards the end of July, and every number, the points, the hotel rates, the airfare is what I could verify at the time of recording. Programs change pricing whenever they feel like it, and if you're hearing this a year from now, look up today's numbers before you book. The arguments hold up, the prices won't. Let's go. And here's why I wanted to do this one. If you listen to the show, there's a very good chance somebody in your life thinks this is a bad idea. Maybe it's a parent, a spouse, a coworker who heard you say the word miles and made a face, and their objection is almost always some version of one of Dave's 4 arguments. It's usually not even original to them. It's downstream of him because he's been the loudest voice in personal finance in America for 30 years. So you're going to hear these, probably at Thanksgiving, maybe at your next family reunion. And I don't want you sitting there with nothing but, well, my podcast guy says it's okay. I want you to actually understand the argument, including the parts where he's right, because a lot of the criticism of this game is fair. There are people who should not be doing this. There are ways to play this game that lose you money. Knowing exactly where that line is doesn't weaken your position. It's the only thing that makes it worth anything. So let's take them in order. Claim number 1 is nobody got rich on credit card points. And this is probably his most famous one. Dave's company ran a study, not a small one. Ramsey Research surveyed more than 10,000 millionaires, 10,167 to be exact. Largest study of its kind ever done in this country. And his line is that the number of them who got rich because of credit card points is 0. Not a small number, but 0. Now, here's where you expect me to fight him, and I'm not going to. On the fact he's completely right, and I'll go further than he does. Credit card points are not a wealth-building tool. They never have been. If anyone in this space, including me, especially me, ever implies points are going to make you rich, stop listening to that person immediately. That study backs it up in every direction. 94% of those millionaires spend less than they make. 3/4 never carried a credit card balance in their lives. That's the recipe. Spend less than you earn, stay out of debt, invest for a long time. It is boring, it works, and it has nothing to do with what airline your card partners with. So that's the fact. He's right. But here's where he and I part ways. And I want to be careful because this is the thing that actually gets under my skin a little bit. He asked 10,000 people how they got rich. They didn't say points. And he decided that settles it. That points are worthless. And that only works if you let Dave Ramsey define the word rich for you. Because he's defining it exactly one way. Net worth, your actual bank account, the number on a spreadsheet. And by that definition, sure, points are a rounding error. I'll sign that. But I don't accept that his spreadsheet is the only account that matters. And I'm not going to let him quietly decide that for me or any of you. Let me tell you what I actually mean with something real from my own life. In one 2-month stretch this year, I'm going to have 3 family things that I need to be at: a graduation, a baby shower, and Thanksgiving. 3 different trips, all within about 8 weeks of each other. All of them for my family, whom I love very much. All of them the kind of thing you either show up or you don't, and years later, the only thing anybody remembers is whether you were actually there. Money and time are exactly what make people skip these kinds of things. It's too expensive. It's too much to fly, everybody. We'll catch the next one. Points are the reason I don't skip a single one of them. Not one overwater bungalow, not one bucket list flex. 3 ordinary will you be there family weekends made easier because the flights and the rooms weren't the things standing in the way anymore. None of that shows up on Dave's spreadsheet. 0 of it moved my net worth. By his measurement, those points were worthless. I am going to be in the room at my family's graduation. I don't need his spreadsheet to tell me what that's worth. So no, points don't make me rich the way he means it, and I'll say that all day. But he doesn't get to be the only one who defines rich. Being in the room is the kind of wealth too. It's just the kind that expires if you wait too long to spend it. So claim 1, he's right about the money. I think he's measuring the wrong account. And speaking of measuring things wrong, his second argument is a math argument. And the math is where he really loses me. So claim 2 is $1 spent equals a penny in points. So here's the argument. You spend $1, you get a point. You go to use that point and it's worth about a penny. So you spent $1,000 to get $10 back. Bad math. And he adds a piece that's genuinely smart, so let me credit it. He says the banks know exactly what they're doing, that if they get you emotionally hooked on the points game, you're more likely to carry a balance, and a balance is where they make their real money. Hold on to that. It's the most correct thing he says all day. And I'm going to come back to it in about 5 minutes. But the math itself, the penny thing, that's where he's describing one door and pretending it's the only door in the building. Here's what beginners believe, and it's exactly what Dave is counting on. They think a point has a value, like a quarter has a value, a fixed thing stamped on it, worth what it's worth no matter what. You cash it in, and that's it. But that's not how points work, and you know this. A point doesn't have a defined value. A point has a value depending on which door you walk it through. And the gap between those 2 doors is the entire game. So let me show you with a real one, mine, booked right now. As you know, if you've heard any of these episodes recently, my wife and I are going to Hawaii. 6 nights on Maui, 2 more on Honolulu. 8 nights total. I booked all of it with points, right around 300,000 points. Chase points that I moved over to Hyatt. The cash price for those same 8 nights is about $8,000. Now run Dave's math on those same points. If I'd taken those 300,000 points and cashed them out at a penny each, which is a real button, it exists in my account, I could push it today if I wanted, I'd have gotten $3,000. Same points, 2 doors, one door hands me $3,000, the other door hands me $8,000 of hotel. Now, I want to beat the fair objection to the punch because it's a good one and you're already thinking it. Lane, you were never going to write an $8,000 check for those hotels. So you didn't really save $8,000. Correct. I didn't. And I'm not claiming that I did. I'm claiming something narrower and way more important. I'm claiming the point is not a fixed penny. Full stop. Both numbers are real. Both doors were open to me. 3,000 through one, 8,000 of hotel through the other. You don't have to believe I'd have paid cash. You just have to look at the two doors and admit they're not the same size. That's the whole disagreement. Dave points out the first door and calls it the ceiling. It's the floor. A couple of honest footnotes, because I won't sell you a fantasy. 300,000 points is a lot of points. That's real time and planning, not your first 6 months in this game. Remember, start simple and then scale. And I haven't even taken this trip yet. It's booked. We go next year, and when I'm back, I'm going to give you the whole episode, including whatever goes wrong, because something always does. But here's the version of all this that actually matters more to you than my Hawaii trip, because you can use it now. Remember that thing Dave said about the banks, that they profit off you? He's right, that they're not your friend. But watch how that same fact flips once you know what you're doing. When you open a card, most of them hand you a big bonus for spending you were already going to do in the first few months. That's the fastest points you will ever earn. And it's for groceries and gas. You'd have bought that anyway. And a lot of cards come with ongoing credits, money back every year or every month or every quarter. Here's the part that matters, and it's the same two doors thinking. Whether that credit is worth a dime depends entirely on whether you are going to already spend that money. So this is real from my own wallet. I have a card with a monthly DoorDash credit and a membership. We were already paying for DoorDash, and I'm already ordering it. So that credit isn't a gimmick. It is a bill I was already paying, and now it's covered. Dunkin' credit on my Amex Gold. We drink coffee anyway. And last year, I was about to replace my Aura ring, and a credit on one of my cards knocked a few $100s off something I was going to buy regardless. So here's the test I actually run before I keep any card with a fee. I don't ask what it could save me in theory. I ask, which of these credits am I already spending money on? If it's several of them, the card pays for itself before I earn a single point. If it's none of them, the card isn't for me, no matter how shiny it looks. And that is the answer to the objection I hear more than any other. And it's Dave's crowd that says it's loudest. Why on earth would you pay a company $500, $800 a year for a credit card? And that's a fair question. And if you're paying that fee just to hold the card, he's right. It is a terrible deal. Don't do it. But that's not what's happening when you do this correctly. Run the test. If that card hands back a food credit you were already using, a hotel credit for a trip you already booked, a travel credit you would have spent anyway, and those add up past the fee, you're not paying $500 or $800. That card is paying you to keep it. The number that matters was never the fee. It's the fee minus everything you were already going to spend. Sometimes that number is negative before you earn a single point. So on claim 2, I hear his warning about the banks, and I actually agree with it. But a point is worth a penny is him describing the one door the banks want you to use and calling it the whole building. And I'm not taking that one. Which brings us to the argument where I stop pushing back completely. Because on the next one, he's not just right, he's describing me. His third argument, credit cards make you spend more and the rewards are the bait. He leans on some research out of MIT about how paying with a card doesn't hurt the way paying with cash does. Your brain barely registers the tap. When you're handing over the cash, it stings a little. People in my world love to pick at that study. Fine. I don't care because I don't need to study. I have me. And I want to be clear about which version of me because it matters. This was years and years ago. Younger, broker, and a whole lot less disciplined than the guy talking to you now. The habits I'm about to describe are the ones I've grown all the way out of. That kitchen table I keep bringing up is where they ended. But they were real, and pretending they weren't wouldn't help you. Here's the whole thing plainly. Back then, I was bad with credit cards before I even knew what a point was. My problem was never points. There was no strategy, no spreadsheet, no optimization, no podcast. I was just a younger guy spending money I didn't have on things I didn't need because the card let me. And I want to be specific because I overspent is too clean. It sounds like a decision. It wasn't one decision. It was 100 little ones that each felt fine in the moment. Dinner out because it was a long week. Something on the card because payday was coming. Never once sitting down to add it up because somewhere I already knew what the total would say. The card made every one of those little yeses frictionless. That's the danger. It's not one reckless purchase. It's that card quietly deletes the moment where cash would have made you stop and feel it. The debt didn't come from chasing rewards. It came from a version of me who hadn't learned this yet. The card was just the thing that made it easy. And the whole reason I can teach any of this now is that I'm not that person anymore. I did the work to stop being him. So when Dave says a credit card in the wrong hands is dangerous, I don't just agree, I'm Exhibit A. And this is the one sentence on this whole show that never changes, no matter which episode that you're on. You pay the balance in full every single month, and you never put $1 on a card you wouldn't have spent anyway. That's not a disclaimer a lawyer made me read. It's the foundation of this podcast. 1 month of interest erases a year of points. 1 month. It's not close. If you can't do that yet, this game just isn't for you yet. And yet is doing real work in that sentence. I don't mean you can't. I mean the order matters. Debt first, points later. Always in that order. That's the beginner trap that actually wrecks people. It's not picking the wrong card. It's starting at all before the foundation is there. So claim 3 goes to Dave. No argument. Hands down, no asterisk. Take a breath. When we come back, there's one last argument, and it's the one that I've thought through the longest. All right, time for a word from our sponsor. Still nothing? Okay, so until corporate America discovers me, the sponsor is you. When you're ready for your next card, use my referral links in the show notes. The same cards, the same bonus, but I earn a few points for sending you. Everybody wins. Nobody reads terms and conditions. There's also Buy Me a Coffee, and the link is down there too if you want to fuel the podcast. And another option is you can subscribe and share this with a friend who wants nearly free travel. Back to the episode. Fourth and final one, and this is the one that kept me up. You've heard the line, even if you didn't know what it was, even if you didn't know it was his. Live like no one else now so that later you can live like no one else. Do the hard thing now. The reward comes later. And I agree with it. I lived it. That's literally what my wife and I did at that kitchen table. But I want to add one thing to it. And to get there, let me give you 2 numbers I found working on an earlier episode because they genuinely bothered me. Almost a quarter of Americans took 0 vacation days last year. 0. And it's not that they ran out. Researchers put the pile of earned, unused paid time off in this country at over $300 billion a year. Earned. Sitting there. Never taken. That is not discipline. That's not living like no one else. Somewhere we turn not using something we already earned into a personality trait, like a skip vacation proves how hard you work. It doesn't. It just means the time expired. So here's my yes and on Dave's line. The discipline was never skipping the trip. The discipline is everything that has to be true before you take it. No debt, no overspending, not $1 you wouldn't have spent anyway. And once all of that is true, taking the trip isn't a violation of the plan. It's the proof the plan worked. So let me make that concrete because I don't want you to leave with a feeling. I want you to leave with math. Picture a family in Chicago, 2 parents, 2 kids, 7 and 10 years old. The exact narrow window where Disney lands the way it's supposed to. They've done everything right. No debt, car paid off, following the plan. They price out the trip and they decide it's 3 to 5 years away. They'll save. They'll go when the money's there. Here's the problem with 3 to 5 years. That 7-year-old is 12. That 10-year-old is now 15 and would rather be anywhere on earth than in line with his parents. The window closed while they were, quote unquote, being responsible. So let's take the 2 biggest line items off the table. Start with the hotel, and I'll teach you something even if you never set foot in Disney. The famous move is the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin. Hotels that physically sit on Disney property, walking distance to 2 parks, but run by Marriott, which means you can book them, that's right, on points. Everybody in my world knows this. Award nights generally run 40 to 60,000 Marriott points, up to 80 during busy season. Call it a middle stretch, and you're somewhere north of 225,000 points for 5 nights, plus about $56 a night in resort fees. Now here's the smarter move nobody really tells people. The Hyatt Place 10 minutes away in Lake Buena Vista is a Category 2 property, near the bottom of the scale, roughly 6,500 to 9,500 points a night. Sleep 6, breakfast included. 5 nights land somewhere around 35 to 48,000 points. Sit with that. Same family, same 5 nights, same trip. One option costs roughly 6 times the points of the other. And I'll be honest about the trade-off instead of pretending there isn't one. The Swan and Dolphin buy you a shorter walk and some real Disney perks, and that's worth something. But 6 times the points is a lot to pay for a shorter walk, and for a beginner on their first real points balance, the 10-minute drive is almost certainly the right call. But you have to make that decision for you. And those aren't the only 2. There are 7 hotels sitting right on Disney property that Disney doesn't even operate. 5 of them are Hiltons. There's a Holiday Inn near Disney Springs starting around 20,000 IHG points a night. Widen the circle to a 15-minute drive and you've got dozens of hotels bookable on points. This isn't one secret loophole that might dry up. It's a whole neighborhood of options. Then the flights. And here's something that surprised me while I built this. The flights are the small part. I pulled Chicago to Orlando this week. The average round trip's running around $237, with nonstop deals on United and American at a $100 to $69 round trip. And the budget carriers can go even lower. For a family of 4, you're looking at roughly $700 to $1,000 to get everyone there and back. Now that's real money, but it is not the thing keeping most families at home. And notice what just happened, because this is the actual habit I'm trying to build in you. I ran the comparison, and the answer came back different than I expected. Orlando is one of the most competitive routes in the country. Everybody flies there, and the fares show it, which means on this trip, your points are probably better spent on the hotel than the plane. That's not a disappointing answer. That's the answer working correctly. You run the numbers every time and let them tell you where to spend. Sometimes the honest result is just pay cash for the flights. So run the whole thing. Hotel covered on points, flights cheap enough to absorb maybe. What's left are park tickets and food, which points don't cover, and I'm not going to pretend that they do. That family 3 to 5 year trip just became a 1 to 2 year trip. Points didn't buy them a vacation they couldn't afford. Points didn't let them skip the discipline. Points compressed the timeline on a trip they'd already earned the right to take, and compressed it back inside the window where the 7-year-old is still 7. So claim 4, agreed in principle. His rules are the floor. I just don't think the floor is the ceiling. All right, let's land this thing. So 4 arguments, and here's the scorecard. 1, nobody gets rich on points. That is true on the money, but rich isn't only a spreadsheet number, and I'm not going to let him pretend that it is. 2, a point is worth a penny. Remember, that's 1 door. Same points are walking me through an $8,000 door in Hawaii. There's 2 doors. 3, cards make undisciplined people spend more. True, and I'm the evidence. Pay in full, every month, no exceptions. And 4, live like no one else now. That is true. The discipline was never the skip trip. It's everything that has to be true today before you take it. 2 today, 2 to the rookies. And honestly, I don't think he'd fight me that hard on either of mine if we were sitting across the table. Or, yeah, absolutely, he actually would fight me really hard. All right, let's go back to that kitchen table with me one more time. The guy sitting there with those statements had no business owning a credit card. If you'd handed him a point strategy, he'd have turned that into more debt inside a month, because that's exactly what he'd been doing. Dave Ramsey's rules are what got that guy out. A room, a workbook, and a wife willing to sit there and do it with me. Here's what I've come around to. I don't think Dave and I actually disagree about much. I think he's talking to the person still sitting at that table, and I'm talking to the person who already got up from it. His rules aren't the opposite of what I teach. They're the prereqs. You don't get to play this game until his rules are already true for you. Debt gone, balance paid in full, not a dollar spent, you wouldn't have spent anyway. But once they're true, once you've done the hard part, I don't believe the reward for a decade of discipline is that you never go anywhere, that you never see graduation, that the kids are 7 and then they're not. He asked 10,000 people how they got rich, and none of them said points, and I believe him. But nobody ran the other study. Nobody sat with those same people near the end and asked which trips they took, which mornings they were actually in the room. That's the account I'm building, not net worth, the other one. And it's the only one with an expiration date. The trip was on the table the whole time. All right, folks, that is our show. And I want to say thank you, genuinely. You could spend time on any of 1,000 shows, listening to music, or not listening to me at all. And instead, you spend it here listening to me argue about Dave Ramsey. That is not lost on me. If you got something out of this one, the single biggest favor you can do for me, it takes about 15 seconds. Leave me a rating and a review wherever you're listening. I promise you I read them. And they help more beginners find the show, and every one of them makes a real difference to something this small. And if you know somebody who keeps saying they could never figure this stuff out, send them this episode. That's exactly who it's for. And you already know the rule. We don't spend what we don't have. We chase trips and we chase memories, but never debt. This is the Points Rookie, and I'll see you the next time. From clueless to confident, we go together in the points and miles game. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.